Hello and welcome to today's episode of LinkedIn with Louise. And today I am joined by a lovely guest friend of mine, Fiona Walsh, who is a PowerPoint specialist. Fiona, welcome to the podcast.
Hi, Louise. Thanks for having me back again.
Yes, absolutely. So Fiona, take a little moment and let everybody know who you are, what you do, and who you do it for, please.
Thank you. My name is Fiona Walsh. My business is Empower Presentations, and I'm a PowerPoint trainer. I help organisations to present better by teaching them how to create professional on-brand slides and how to present them with confidence.
Excellent. Which I think a lot of people need help with.
Yeah.
Which you have found out.
Yes, definitely. I'm just off a one-to-one call with a business corporate client, and within the first 2 minutes, she said, "Oh, didn't realise that existed."
Yes,
which is what I get all the time.
Yeah. So for people listening in, we both do training. So Fiona does corporate training on presentations and PowerPoint, and I do corporate training on how to use LinkedIn for business, and I get the exact same response, which makes you feel so good about your what you're delivering and how you're helping people, which is I love.
Yeah, okay. Absolutely.
So Fiona, one of the reasons I wanted to get you on the podcast today was to talk about, really, people will listen to this podcast and they'll be thinking, hey, this all sounds great, Louise, but does it actually work? Does it all work? And that's why Fiona's on to tell us how this has all helped her. So Fiona, you worked with me. When did we work together?
I think it was around 2 years ago that we started working together.
2 years ago.
Yeah.
And we did the LinkedIn profile together, and then we did monthly strategy sessions together, really based on how to use LinkedIn. And whenever I'm on a call with a potential client and they say, so Louise, what does this involve? And I say, oh, you optimize your profile. And then the second session is how to use LinkedIn. And I always think to myself, I'm not really selling that very well. I should really dive into that a little bit more, but that's basically what it is like how to actually effectively use LinkedIn.
Yeah.
So Fiona, I would like to hear from you on how you were getting your business leads before you started focusing on LinkedIn initially, and then let's look at some actual examples of what the business you've got as a result from using LinkedIn. So before you were really using LinkedIn, how were you building your business?
I always felt that I wanted to be on LinkedIn because for me, LinkedIn is the professional platform, and that's where I see myself as a professional. So for me, LinkedIn was the answer. And I had a presence on LinkedIn. I was posting things, but very sporadically. So there was no strategy. It was just, oh, that's a good idea. Let's post that. So there was really no strategy there or no plan. I was getting interest from it, but no leads.
Yes.
And a lot of that could have been the way I was structuring posts. So that was one of the things working with you, is how to structure the post to get more engagement, which is really, really valuable. Because after I started working with you, then I started getting more engagement and having more conversations with people. And that's where things started to take off. But also because of having a plan for the month.
Yes.
And the way I was structuring that information. And also, I think the way of planning for the month and creating the content for the month, and that takes the pressure off then, because you've got that content ready to post, and now we can schedule posts anyway. So theoretically, you could do it all in a day, or take a couple of days at the beginning of the month, at the end of the last month, and have it all ready.
Yes.
No, you've taken all the stress out of it then.
Yeah, so I do work with coaches and consultants and people who want to be visible on LinkedIn. The other side of the business is we do all the content creation for our clients. And that's how we do it. We plan the 6 months and what we're going to talk about in the next 6 months, break it down by topic, and then create all the content ahead of time. The clients approve it, and then we schedule it all.
Yeah.
And I think it's like something taken off your plate that you don't have to think about or deal with, but it's getting you visibility and getting interested parties looking at you.
Yeah.
I found some really interesting tips today on more ways to get visibility on content on LinkedIn, which I might have to save for a later episode, but it does involve reaching out directly to people that you think might be interested in your content, which is not really something that I personally do. I've been deep diving into expanding my knowledge further on LinkedIn because there's a couple of big things coming up in the next few months for me, some speaking events and some really good opportunities. So I've been like polishing up on my own LinkedIn knowledge, which kind of shows that even though I have a podcast about LinkedIn, you're always learning.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Always
Always learning. Yeah, definitely.
It's crazy.
No doubt.
So when you started to be a bit more planned and strategic about your content on LinkedIn, when did you first start to notice things change a little bit in terms of business growth, Fiona?
Well, I think the engagement pretty much straight away, because I was getting engagement. Also using the right hashtags meant that people were finding me.
Mm-hmm.
So I had one person reach out to me because I was posting posts with hashtag PowerPoint, PowerPoint trainer, PowerPoint training, PowerPoint specialist. I had one person find me in the US and we connected, and that led to me visiting the presentation summit in California last week.
Yes.
And yeah, networking with some of the top PowerPoint specialists in the world,
yes.
Which was brilliant. So that's kind of how it can open up opportunities for you.
So yes,
sure.
so we're racing ahead here a little bit. Which I love, because you're just back from this fabulous conference and it's very exciting. So you've not just used LinkedIn to get business for yourself, but you've actually also used it really for, I suppose, personal development and finding people within the network who has led to the opportunity for you to travel to this event in America.
Yeah.
But I know as well, you've also been found by people who want to hire speakers to talk about PowerPoint and presentations. And I think for people who are listening to this and thinking like, this is really something I need to get to grips with, how do I get found by people on LinkedIn? In your experience, Fiona, are you being, the people who are commenting on your content and engaging on your content, are those the people who are hiring you? Or would you say it's people who are watching what you're doing and then reaching out? What, in your experience, because I know for me, I know which it is for me, but I'm just curious to know for yourself, would you think that people, are you aware of people before they reach out to actually ask you about working together?
So I think with the speaking opportunities that I've got through LinkedIn, I've created those myself rather than being found.
Okay.
So I would have looked for events and then thought, oh, that's interesting. I wonder if I could speak at that. And then reached out to people on LinkedIn and had a conversation with them and ended up working with them. And that's paid events. So not necessarily free speaking events, paid events.
Yes, let's break that, before we jump into the next piece, let's break that down for people. So you went onto LinkedIn and you were specifically looking for conferences that had speakers. And then so how did you find out who to connect with, to contact there?
So I was looking for events for executive professionals, so executive assistants, PAs, VAs.
Yeah.
And found some events, several of them around. One of them was the PA show in London.
Yes.
There is an organisation called Executive Support Media. They also have a magazine called Executive Support Magazine. And there is another conference that I'm getting paid to go to in Vienna in December. And that
quite
is
jealous of that one, actually.
I know, yeah, Christmas market's lovely. And that's through an organisation called Von Landen Events. And they had an online event last year that I spoke at, paid for executive assistants, and this one is in person, so hence I'm going to Vienna. So to start with, looking for what events are out there.
Yes.
Then looking at the companies that were hosting those events, looking at the people working for that organisation, reached out to those people. Every one of them responded to me. And then maybe it wasn't them that was organising the conference, it might have been somebody else, but then referred me to that other person. Please have a conversation with, please contact whoever.
Yes.
And that's how it would have started.
Perfect. So you find the person, you connected with them, and then we then taking that conversation off of LinkedIn to get to the next step. Yes.
Yeah. So I think it would have been like the CEOs of those companies and said, is there an opportunity to speak? I see you have this event. I'm interested in seeing if we could work together, and had a lovely response from each of them.
I love it. That's fabulous. So that's where you're and paid speaking. Thank you people who pay speakers. We love people who actually pay speakers. Yes. That's excellent. And then in terms of, and I love that you spoke virtually at one last year and then they asked you to come and speak in person this year. That's another nice little tip for people as well.
Absolutely, yeah. And the virtual one was paid, so I did that. That was perfect. And then that was December last year. That was the one in Vienna, but an online version. And then I reached out to them about May and said, are there any other opportunities to work together? And the answer came back, yes, there is. We're actually planning an in-person conference and we'd love to have you.
So you reached out to them.
Yeah.
Love it. Yes.
This is all in the follow-up.
This is what fortune is in the follow-up. Yes.
That's it. Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. And then what about getting booked by clients? Is it similar? Are you reaching out to people and saying, hey, do you need help with your presentations? I saw you talking at an event last week and it was terrible.
I have done that in person, not on LinkedIn, and I did get business from it, but I'm not sure whether that would work every time. I did reach out to somebody that did a presentation, it was in person, and they had the most amazing imagery. And I went to them and said, your imagery is brilliant, absolutely fantastic imagery. And it turns out one of their staff members had a drone and was a photographer. So they were taking these amazing pictures for them.
Right.
And the guy turned around to me and he said, is there a but? And I said, there's an and. And we could make this a little bit better for the audience that you're presenting to. It would have been a great presentation inside like a boardroom or at a conference where it's just looped on the screen. But for an in-person event, it was very difficult to see. And I got business out of that. They booked me then for a couple of sessions.
I love that. I don't generally recommend that you point out people's flaws.
But I did compliment them immensely to start with because their imagery really was fantastic.
Yes.
You know, and I think they knew that as well because they won an award, social media award recently for having the best use of, I can't remember, it might have been LinkedIn or something. Anyway, because of their imagery, they had this amazing imagery.
Yes.
So I have done that, but no, probably not recommended.
No, I mean, people will ask me. So I'm currently going through a sales cycle with a potential client. And they said, could you have a look at our LinkedIn profile and let us know what you think? I'm like, oh, flip, because it's not good. But it's, you have to be like super diplomatic.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes, look, I definitely could see areas where I could help to really optimize this for you. Definitely don't say it's terrible. So I get we're going a wee bit of a side tangent here, which doesn't surprise me at all. People are contacting me regularly to say, you're doing really well on YouTube, Louise, but you're not, your video editing is just not very good. I'm like, that's not the way to win my business. Anyone watching this, that's not the way to win my business. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yes, that's definitely not. Anyway, so let's move on. So what about in terms of, so talking about speaking events, and you also have been picked up for a few podcasts, I think, based off your LinkedIn. Would you say, Fiona, it's a mixture of your network that you're building alongside of your content?
It is, yes. And here's another example for you. There is somebody I spotted on LinkedIn once who I didn't know. They're based in Ireland. Anne Walsh, not a relation, but she calls herself the Excel lady. I thought, well, that's interesting because here's me specialising in PowerPoint and there's Anne specialising in Excel.
Nice.
So reached out to her on LinkedIn, we had a chat and we've sort of turned into referral partners.
Oh, lovely.
So I've received more at the moment than I've been able to give back, but I'm sure that will be reciprocated at some point. Yes. But yeah, she's been referring me to clients and that's been amazing. So thank you, Anne. Yeah. So even building up relationships, but that was all on LinkedIn because I would never have found her if it wasn't for LinkedIn. She trains remote. I think we first had a chat when we were probably in the lockdown anyway, in the pandemic, so we wouldn't have met at a networking event. She's based in Galway on the west coast of Ireland, so she's not local to me here. But that's a relationship that has been, cultivated and one that has proved quite lucrative from a business point of view.
Yes, and I think for people watching or listening, it's really important to remember that a small and mighty network can be way more powerful than connecting with everybody and any on the platform. I was doing a training session with a corporate team this week, and when you're in the session, so when I do the LinkedIn workshops, people have their laptops open and they're following along with what I'm doing on their LinkedIn, and I had to I didn't shout, but I had to say, no, don't do that to somebody, because we were using the LinkedIn search feature, and I was able to pull up on screen basically 1,700 people who fit the ideal client for this person. And the salesperson who was at the training says, oh, so I can just go connect on those. I was like, no, please don't do that. Because I much prefer people to connect with conversations.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
And lead conversations as opposed to just connect with as many people as you can. Apart from anything, LinkedIn will just give you a warning, say, please don't do that.
Yeah, and also personalizing it. I mean, I've reached out to some people that I wouldn't know, but learning development manager, director for an interesting company, and just reached out and said something like, oh, I saw this the other day that your organization was involved in. Really interesting. You've got to have something rather than you look like I want you in my network, let's connect. Even that as a message is a bit like, really? Why do you want me in my network?
Why?
Yeah, give me more.
I know. And then so today I got a message from somebody today, and he was very complimentary about one of my videos on YouTube. So I thought, and I replied and I said, thank you very much, that's very kind. He immediately sent me a mock-up of a new background photograph for my LinkedIn profile that I definitely would not use. But also I didn't request it. And he said, I hope you like this and find it useful. I thought, no, I don't. Please don't do that. So
no, definitely not.
Discontinue that conversation immediately. So top tip, when people are connecting with you and sending you a message, have a conversation with them. Don't try and literally immediately go, oh, you need some PowerPoint training. Here's a link to book a call with me. What? No, I never said that. Thank you. So what about actual, I know the speaking gigs are paid and that is business. What about people who reach out to you for booking you for the core work that you do, Fiona? How has that come about through your activities on LinkedIn?
Most of the time when somebody reaches out to me, they've probably been following me for a while and I haven't had any communication with them at all. Yeah. I tend to get a connection request without a message, and I look at the profile and think, I wonder. Accept it, go back and say, thanks for the connection request. And then I get asking, ask they're interested in doing business. And that's really interesting, because if I ignored that request because there's no message in it, or because I don't know them, I would have missed out on business. Yes. So I tend to review their profile and think, okay, who are they? Where are they based? What location are they in? Because I'm working with corporate clients, so I know that people in some locations probably aren't going to have the funds, depending on that country's economy, to pay my prices. So therefore, I'm going to be looking at where they're located. But yeah, that's really interesting. I think that people, I'm finding, don't tend to put a message. They just send me a blank connection request. And it's only when I go back that they go, actually, we're looking for help with blah, blah, blah.
Yes. And I think it's, it is a B2B platform. So if someone does connect with you without a message and you reply back, so as you say, Fiona, if they look like someone that could be a potential customer or client, I will, message back usually and say, oh, thanks for connecting. I see, we both know Fiona Walsh or whatever. Yeah. And then if they reply back again, I might just say, if you let me know if you're ever looking for some support with LinkedIn. So it's not down your throat, but it's also letting you know that, it's opening up.
Yeah, you're quite approachable.
If they want to come back and say something to you. Do you have the creator mode turned on?
I do, yes.
So do you ever look, this is something I do, I will look and see so creator mode, for those of you who don't know what it is, it's a profile casing, I suppose. You turn on LinkedIn creator mode, and it does a few different things. It allows you access to LinkedIn Live. It moves your profile about, so your about section drops down and your featured section comes higher up in your profile. It also gives you the ability to say what you talk about. So you have 5 hashtags attached to your profile. And with that, it also changes your connect button to a follow button.
Yeah.
People that know how to find the connect button can still do it, but a lot of people don't know that. So
Yeah.
I check, because you get notified, so many people have followed you. So I always go and have a little look and see who has followed me, because again, they could be people coming from the YouTube channel who aren't going to be people that work with me. Or it could be someone as a person of interest. And that happened actually on Monday, and I haven't followed up with them yet. But with that person, I will then send that person a connection request and just see, interested in hear what you're doing, what you're up to in work. And so the follow button it's a bit tricky for people who are creators, because a lot of people who are coaches and consultants and trainers do turn it on, and then you might miss that little.
I know, depending on how your potential client, how well they know LinkedIn to know that they know where to find the connect button. But I tend to do that with the follows as well, see who they are, where they are, and also then with who's looked at the profile. So if someone's looked at the profile of interest, I'll send them a connection request and just say, see, you looked at the profile, are you interested in connecting? And most people do, and then you can have a conversation with them, which doesn't necessarily lead to anything immediately.
No.
But they know you're there and what you do, and it might do in the future.
Yes. And the other reason I like doing the messages is, and it's really funny, this happened yesterday. If you're connected with somebody a couple of years ago, you don't remember that you're even connected to them, because you probably have thousands of people in your network. If you had a conversation with that person at the time you connected, you click on that and see the history.
Exactly.
So, a person in my local network was off to meet a potential investor in her business yesterday, and I thought, that name's familiar. I wonder, am I connected to him on LinkedIn? I looked him up, and 6 years ago we connected, and at that point in his life he was a photographer. And I was like, oh, that's because I was trying to figure out, why have I got this like big investor in my network and I'm not really, what do we connect over? And we connected over photography. I thought, well, he's done well for himself in 6 years. So
that's it. It's great to put in the message as well, isn't it? Well, if you did meet somebody in person, where you met them, because then you can go back and say, that's it, I met you at that event, and do you remember that? And so it's really good to have that information.
You could have that from the people that you met at your conference in the US, the presentation summit.
Yeah.
Lovely to meet you at the presentation summit, and they have no idea that you're literally putting a tag on their account to say where you met them. It's a little secret tip for everybody there today. So in terms of, you're still consistent in your content creation on LinkedIn, Fiona, which is good to see, because I do see people who approach LinkedIn, decide to invest a bit of time and money in building up their profile, and then they get busy and then they just forget to do any of it, or it just falls off the bandwagon. But
I find, even if I'm busy, I still like to, I only recorded a video yesterday. I'm going to post today on PowerPoint Live in MS Teams. If anybody's a Teams user, you check it out. And I should have done that early in the month, but I didn't because it was very busy. But I at least try to post a couple of things a week.
Yes.
Or even one thing a week, just to keep that momentum going.
Yeah.
And sometimes it might not be content I directly created. It could be an article that you find that's interesting, and that's an easy one then, because there's not much time and effort in that.
Yes.
Obviously, creating the videos and the newsletters is a bit more time.
But it's about letting your network know that you're still here, and you're still doing this work, and you're still
active
and building up your expertise. Yes, so that's great.
Definitely.
Any tips for someone who's listening to us and thinks, well, like, it's about time I started doing this a bit with LinkedIn. What tips would you give somebody, Fiona? Say they've got a basic profile, but they haven't really posted anything yet, because your content is all about how to use PowerPoint and And a bit about your network as well. Of course, you do.
Yes, yeah,
Because
it would
you
be.
host a local networking event in Cork, don't you, for women?
I do, yes, yeah.
Yeah.
We just have a chat and a coffee, and it's an opportunity when I suppose when you don't have many co-workers, it's nice to get out there and just speak to other people. And I find that having a husband that does shift work and having younger children, it's difficult to get to some networking events. So I just do my own, and it's, there's a time that suits me in the day when the kids are
after my own heart. Haven't got what I need, I'm just going to go and build it. Yes,
exactly. And it's really suits, it satisfies my need to have a coffee and a chat with people. Yes, a couple of hours, and it's great. So I do that. What was the question?
The tips you would give somebody. So recently you referred someone to me who will not name other people, who could see your success on LinkedIn, and wanted to figure out how to do that for themselves. So let's pretend that you didn't refer that person to me, and they came to you and said, "Can I take you out for coffee, Fiona, and pick your brain?" Don't do that. Don't pick Fiona's brain. But if you're friends with her, it's a bit different. What advice would you be giving to that person, apart from go work with Louise?
Go and work with Louise. She's brilliant. I did actually have somebody approaching me recently, and she would be just starting out, so she doesn't have the revenue to work with you. So there's no point in me. She's literally just had like one client so far, and I know she's not at that place to be able to invest in working with LinkedIn. And the advice I gave her was, have a think about how you're going to use LinkedIn, because a bit like me when I first started, it might have been a bit sporadic what she was posting. So I said, have a think about what a topic for the month, and for an initial plan, try and post once a week.
Yeah.
So just one post a week for the next 4 weeks, and maybe have that on a topic. If you can include a poll, start thinking about how you can start engaging with your audience. I have to say, she's done really well.
Oh, good.
She has, yes, because she's come from corporate. She spent a couple of years in corporate, and then left the corporate job. So she's very little, income coming in. She's really starting from scratch.
Yeah. And
she's started embracing it, and she's doing well with the consistency. So she's starting to build up. People are starting to listen to her because she's got this plan and some consistency in what she's posting. And she's including some video posts where she's giving her views. She's included polls. And
I think she's getting quite advanced for most of the LinkedIn network. If she's doing polls and videos, bravo.
She is. Yeah, I know. That's what I said. I did actually reach out to her recently and said, well done. You can really see an improvement, because it was just the odd post that I would see, and then it was just nothing. I'm not saying it wasn't good what she was putting already, but just having that different level. So that's what I would say. If you're not posting anything at all for a month, try posting once a week and thinking about what you're going to post, and maybe planning that for a topic for the month, and have some theme running through that, and see how you get on.
Oh, that's great. So we could also direct that lady to, I've got loads of free stuff on YouTube and on our blog that might help her as well. And of course, this podcast. So that's brilliant that she's doing that. I love it. All right. So Fiona, if somebody's listening and they have, it's interesting, would you say it's the person directly who reaches out to you, or would it be somebody who is working within an organization and thinks, oh my Lord, my boss's presentations are terrible, we need some help here? So is it the assistants who reach out to you, or is it the CEO? Curious.
It depends. I do one-to-one training, and I also do group training. So it could be the learning and development manager or professional. It could be, I've actually had one recently, which was a director that wanted it for their staff, to upskill their staff, because their staff are the ones that are doing the presentations.
Yes.
That was for a marketing agency, quite a large marketing agency.
Oh, I love that.
So they wanted help for their staff. So they reached out to me and said, do you do one-to-ones? I do, yes. I said, could I connect you with somebody in my team?
It could literally be the difference between them submitting a brilliant pitch, or they might have a brilliant product, but if they're not presenting it well enough, it's literally the difference between winning the business or not.
Absolutely. It's so powerful. Yeah. I know we're talking about LinkedIn. Don't start me about PowerPoint, otherwise I'll go off on a rant about PowerPoint presentations and how important it is to get them looking professional.
Well, so this is where your presence on LinkedIn talking about PowerPoint keeps you top of mind, because I go to conferences and events. And I went to one recently in Northern Ireland, and the slides, I sat there and I thought, oh, they really need Fiona. You know, one of those slides that had like so much text on it.
Yeah.
And the presenter's literally reading through, and nobody could even see the text. It was that small. And I was going, oh, Fiona, where are you?
I know. I once sat through a presentation. It was a PR agency. Okay. PR agency with quite a few members of staff. They had 12 photos on one slide, and they were all taken by a professional photographer. So they were really high quality photographs. Should have had one on each slide. And they were talking about them like we could see them, but nobody could see them because they were these little thumbnails, you know. It's like, oh, what are they? And it would have made such a difference. It was one each slide, and you could just flick through them in 2 seconds. You didn't need to have them on for a minute each. You could have just quickly gone, oh, this is whatever, and this is so and so, and you know, she could have gone through them ever so quickly. 1 minute, you could have gone through all of those, and we'd have got it. But they were all on the same slide and couldn't see a thing, which is a shame.
Oh dear.
So that's I'm going to start talking about me and my business here now.
Yeah,
so
well, you know what? Maybe you should do a podcast about presentations.
We probably do.
I think that would be a really good. No, you start a podcast about presentations.
Okay. Yeah.
That's my recommendation. All right, Fiona, this has been fabulous. I think it's been really useful for people who have a service-based business, and I think to give examples of where in practice of how somebody else has used LinkedIn. And that's what I really wanted this episode to be about. Because I can talk about it all day long, and then people say, but Louise, that's because you're on LinkedIn all the time.
Yes.
So this has been very helpful, I think, for the audience. If somebody wants to reach out to you and find out more about you and just to see you in action, or to hire you to train their team, where can they find you?
On LinkedIn, of course. If you search for Fiona Walsh, PowerPoint, even in Google, you'll find my LinkedIn profile. That's how strong it is.
Excellent.
So it's searching, if you're searching in Ireland, not sure about the UK, but if you're searching in Ireland and you put Fiona Walsh PowerPoint up, you find my LinkedIn profile. Top result in Google.
Perfect. Thank you so much for joining us today, Fiona.
Thanks for having me, Louise. Bye.
If you would like to know more about the VIP package that Fiona and I did together that helped her to really raise her profile and get her strategy and content in order for LinkedIn, then please reach out. It's called the VIP Plus package, and it's a 2-part training session of 2 90-minute sessions, followed by 3 months of one-to-one support, where we have a strategy call each month, but we also, in between the calls, you get to send me through your content plan, and get feedback from me directly on that plan and on those posts before you post them on LinkedIn. So if that sounds like it appeals to you, go to louisebrogan.com/inquiry and book in a call to have a conversation with me. And I look forward to working with you to help you raise your visibility on LinkedIn.